All right, so we're going to start by dividing whole numbers by fractions, and we're going to be using a model for each one. So this says 3 divided by 1/4. So what I want you to think about is this is really asking how many 1/4 are there in 3 wholes. So for our picture, let's start by drawing 3 wholes. I like to use rectangles because they're really easy to split. So here I have 3 wholes. Next, I'm going to split each one of these wholes into fourths because that's what we're dividing by. We're trying to find out how many of these 1/4 are there in 3 wholes. So I'm going to draw fourths. In order to draw fourths, I'm going to draw 3 lines. What I like to remember is that you always just subtract 1 from the number, and then that tells you how many lines to draw. So 4 take away 1 is 3. So I draw 3 lines, and I get 4 pieces. So lastly, I'm going to go back and I'm going to count how many 1/4 are there. There's 1 here, there's 2, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So our quotient or answer is 12. Now maybe some of you might see a shortcut. If you do see the shortcut, great. Let's try another problem. Let's try something just a little bit more complicated. So we're going to try 4 divided by 2/3. This is asking the same thing as before. This is just asking how many 2/3 are in 4 wholes. So once again, I'm going to draw 4 wholes. And now I'm going to draw thirds. So to draw thirds, 3 take away 1 is 2. I'm going to draw 2 lines in each of these rectangles. And that's going to split into thirds. Now this problem is asking how many 2/3 are there. So you see that 2 right there? So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to group up every 2/3. So here's 1/3, here's 2/3. There's a group right there. I'm going to use a different color. Here's 1/3, here's 2/3. There's another group. 1/3, 2/3. There's another group. 1/3, 2/3. There's another group. Now you'll notice I still have these thirds left over, and you can actually group these up too. So here's 1/3 right here, and here's another third down here. I'm going to group up these two into another group, and then these two over here into another group. So lastly, you're going to count how many total thirds you have. Or how many total groups of 2/3 do you have? I have 1 right here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our quotient is 6. Now moving on to something even more complicated than that, let's try 3 divided by 2/3. So first, this is asking how many 2/3 are there in 3 wholes. So I'm going to draw 3 wholes. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to split it into thirds just like before. I'm going to draw 2 lines in each. And just as before, I'm going to be grouping them up into groups of 2/3. Right there, 2/3. So 1/3, 2/3, there's one group. 1/3, 2/3, there's my second group. 1/3, 2/3, there's another group. 1/3, 2/3, there's another group. So now you'll notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 total groups, and I have this 1 left over right here. Now this 1, you might think it's 1/3, but that's a common mistake that a lot of kids make. What you have to remember is that we're trying to make groups of 2. So this 1 right here is actually 1 out of 2, because imagine if you had another 1/3 right there, then you would have a whole group of 2/3. But we don't have that one. So what we do have is we have 1 out of 2 of it. So our quotient is going to be 4 and 1/2. And finally, let's try something even more complicated than that. We're going to go 5 divided by 3/5. It's the same steps. The numbers are just a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to start with 5 wholes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to split each one into fifths now. So I'm going to do 5, take away 1, which is 4. I'm going to draw 4 lines to make fifths. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure you have 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're looking for groups of 3/5. So for every 3/5, I'm going to go ahead and circle it. So 1, 2, 3, 3/5. There's my first group. 1, 2, 3. There's my second group. 1, 2, 3. There's my third group. 1, 2, 3. There's my fourth group. 1, 2, 3. There's my fifth group. 1, 2, 3. There's my sixth group. 1, 2, 3. My seventh group. 1, 2, 3, and my eighth group right here. So I have a total of 8 groups, but we have 1 left over here. Now remember, our goal was to make groups of 3/5. 1, 2, 3. This 1 right here represents 1 out of our goal of 3/5. So what you would imagine is if we had another 2/5 right here, we would have another group, but we don't have that. We only have 1 out of 3 of what we need. So our fraction is going to be 8 and 1/3. All right, and that's it. Now, if you see a shortcut to this, you can go ahead and use it, but hopefully you know how to use the model so you have something to fall back upon. Good luck.